morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the JEDI webinar on introducing the dolphins of Penang. I'm your moderator today, Evelyn Tay from JEDI, Jaringan Ecology dan Iklim, and our esteemed speaker today is Dr. Leela Rajamani from USM. Allow me to briefly introduce Dr. Leela. She graduated in 2009 with a Ph.D. on Dugong and Seagrass conservation and has been working with marine mammals since 2002. She is currently senior lecturer at the Center for Marine and Coastal Studies, Universiti Sains Malaysia. Her key interests include dugong, seagrass, and dolphin ecology and conservation, and involving local communities in the research, conservation, and management of marine mammals. Some of her notable appointments include being a member of the IUCN-SSC Sirenian Specialist Group, visiting scholar at the James Cook University, and participating in the global GEF, Dugong, and Seagrass Conservation Project from 2015 to 2018. She is currently working on an ecological project on inshore dolphins in Penang and on a new project on offshore marine mammals in Sabah. Her aim is to inform a balanced and equitable approach to the management of coastal and marine resources. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to Dr. Leela. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody, for tuning in and listening on this Saturday morning. Today, I'm going to talk about the dolphins that are found in Penang and generally how I came to discover them and what are the species found here. So let's move on to the next slide. Basically, I'll just give you a quick run through of what I'm going to be talking about today. So when I first came to Penang, I did not know that there was like a whole bunch of dolphins here as well, and like there's various species as well until I started going to work every day. I have a very strange setting when I go to work. I take a boat to Seagrass, which is a field station located up north of Penang. And that's when I saw dolphins, and I thought, oh, wow, like I could study them. I did not come to Penang to study the dolphins in Penang. I was coming here to study the dolphins maybe north of Penang, like in Langkawi or Perak or something like that. So when I saw them, I thought, hey, I could do a project, they're just at my back door. So that's how it all started, really. And so far, we actually have discovered 4 species of dolphins in Penang, which is really exciting. And we hope to discover even more, maybe. And then I will look also at the more serious stuff, like the threats that are affecting them, and in what ways we can help in conservation as a community, as a research center, and basically, how everything can work together because we have various levels, various bodies for conservation. Okay, so I guess you guys don't know this maybe, but there are actually 27 species of marine mammals which is found in Malaysia. And this includes Sabah and Sarawak as well. So in Penang, we can find, if you can see my cursor, we can find the Indo-Pacific Humpback dolphin, the Indo-Pacific finless porpoise, and then the Irrawaddy dolphin. And if we look here, wait, I can't find one more guy. Yes, there's the Indo-Pacific Bottlenose Dolphin. So in these species, there are basically 2 types of marine mammals here in all around the world. One is the toothed ones and the ones that don't have teeth. Now the ones that have teeth, of course, are carnivores, so they would eat almost everything that like a fish or like a squid or something like that, a crustacean. Whereas the ones that don't have teeth, which are like the baleen whales, they have something called baleen plates, and these guys are known as gentle giants because they don't actually have teeth at all. They have something like a baleen plates, which are like really thin pieces of bone that form sort of like a filter. So when all these critters, like krill and small little fish and all just go in, they would just filter out all this protein, and that would be their diet. So this is actually quite scary because of our plastic problem, actually. So anything that goes into their mouth will be sieved out and it will go into their stomach. Well, it's not a good thing if you have a bunch of garbage and plastic as well going inside their stomach, you know. So the blue whale is also found in Malaysia, but I think more likely in Sabah. And in this offshore project, we'll be looking at all the larger cetaceans, as well as we do see killer whale also in Sabah. So it's quite exciting to learn about our larger marine mammals in Malaysia. Okay, so I'd just like to introduce you to my study site. This is where the red part is where I usually go for my surveys. Of course, there are dolphins all around in Penang. It's just not in the western part. But I've sort of isolated that area because I find that there are Irrawaddy dolphin as well as finless porpoise in this area. And I'm managing to do some really long-term population type studies over there. Okay. So I'll just take you through the initial, how did I see it? As I said, I saw them on the boat, I got excited, and then I thought, hey, I could do a project. But at that time, I didn't have any money. And I started doing work by doing interview surveys with the local communities there. And I found out that they do have some idea that there are different kinds of dolphins there. So it started from that. And then also when I talked to fisheries department, they had documented strandings of 4 species, namely the Irrawaddy, the Humpback, the finless, as well as the Indo-Pacific Bottlenose Dolphin. So this was since 2008. Oops. Okay, so I'll take you through in order of like when I saw these animals first. The first animal that I saw in Penang in 2010 was the Indo-Pacific Humpback dolphin. And it's really characteristic because it's got a slightly pink underbelly. It starts off as gray when it's born, but it slowly changes its coloration. And usually the color, as you can see here in the slide, you can see that its belly and its fins are kind of like pinkish. So this is actually quite interesting. And I would often see them in quite large groups around Telok Bahang area, Batu Ferringhi area, and they would appear to be always swimming anti-clockwise around the island, which is, I mean, interesting. I don't know why they would do that. And I have seen them actually doing quite a number of interesting behaviors, like they are breaching out of the water, feeding. I've seen feeding a lot, traveling, or just playing. And as a reminder to everyone here, actually these species are endangered in the sense that they are in the threatened list for the IUCN. And in that threatened list, there's vulnerable. So our Indo-Pacific Humpback dolphin is actually vulnerable under the IUCN red list. Okay. So then the next little animal that I saw was the Irrawaddy dolphin. And I was doing some line transects around Penang, which covered like the north of Penang. And then I moved also to the western part of Penang. And then suddenly during one of those surveys, I saw a little bit of black pop out of the water, and I thought, what is this black speck? You know, it looks like an Irrawaddy. And sure enough, it is the Irrawaddy dolphin. And the Irrawaddy dolphin has been seen to be occupy this estuarine area from right up from Telok Kampi even. And then there's a bit of Pantai Aceh, Sungai Pinang, and Sungai Burung. So, and based on the work done by my previous postgrad student, she discovered a small residential population of Irrawaddy dolphins in 2013. Okay. So this animal is also found in rivers and is actually critically endangered in rivers and endangered generally worldwide in the IUCN Red List. Okay, so basically, now I'll talk a little bit about, very brief about the population. We do something called photo ID, which means that we try to actually capture pictures of the fins, the dorsal fins of the animal. So in mark recapture analysis, we capture and then recapture the photo, and then we study it over a series of months. And we use a program called MARC, and then basically we came up with an estimate of about 32 individuals to about 50 individuals then in 2013. Okay, so this is the latest data. Actually, we had a brief respite on this project because we couldn't find funding, but we managed to find funding in 2018, and we continued more work on the Irrawaddy and finless porpoise. And we found, but we did a much larger area this time. The previous area only covered about 2 to 3 kilometers from the shore, but now we are covering a much larger area, which is about 7 kilometers from shore. So we can see that the population is quite widespread and it moves into deeper waters, especially I think it's the finless porpoise. As you can see, the finless porpoise is the hexagon here. So you can see they're going quite deep. I think it's more than, this looks like more than about 8 kilometers from shore already, or 7. So yeah, so it's quite far from shore, and they are located, they both co-share this particular habitat. Okay, so I like behavior work, you know, I like what they do in the water and, you know, why they're doing certain things the way they do. So I'm quite interested in behavior of the animal. And we have found very interesting stuff this time round. We have found that they do rest also. And it's very interesting because resting behavior has not been documented actually for Irrawaddy. I've tried reading articles on it. I mean, you know, it's just not been documented as far as I know anyway. So resting behavior is very interesting, and it happens usually more than 3 kilometers from shore. Although we've only observed it a few times, but it's really exciting to see the animal, but it's not good for photo ID though, because we can't get dorsal fins because they're not moving, you know. They're like almost just lying stationary on the water, and it's very interesting to me. The rest of the stuff is there too. They also feed. Luz Helena, my previous student, she actually found that they do feeding 60% of the time in her study in 2013. I did a quick analysis of, you know, daylight behavior in 2013 and daylight behavior in 2019, and we see certain differences which are very worrying also, because feeding has declined. So the animal does not seem to use this area anymore as a feeding area. As you can see, you know, my postgrad, she found that the animal fed 60% of the time. I mean, this displayed feeding behavior, whereas now it's very low. It's about less than 20%, you know. So that means perhaps the niche area for this dolphin has changed, and this habitat has different functions for the animal now. So in 2013, we discovered that the dolphin actually had this interesting feeding behavior where it would actually follow its prey in like circular motions all around, you know, like round and round, you know. It's quite interesting. And this is the actual, what do you call it, the track of the animal. So it's quite interesting that it would do that, you know, like it's going around here, there's a loop here, and then it's going straight, and then there's another loop here. So it's almost like it's following the prey, which was, I think we've already published a paper on this. So if you have time, you just have a look at our, you know, papers that we've done on Penang. So, and this is some behavior showing its distinctive feeding behavior. Like groups of them will move around slowly, and then they would leap into the water with their tail up, and then they will spend time down. So they're like kind of looking for prey. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the finless porpoise, which actually these animals were found as we were observing other animals. So in 2013, we found the first live sighting of this animal. It has been reported before, you know, strandings have been reported, but not the first live sighting. So we discovered that. And then since then, yeah, in our current study from 2019 to 2020, we have recorded at least 20 sightings with a mean group size of about two to three animals. So yeah, and also we have seen interesting behavior as well, such as feeding behavior and socializing. Socializing is when they swim very closely together and they rub and they jump on each other. And recently, last year, I found something, I saw something very amazing, but we didn't have a time to take the picture. But we saw a mother and calf swimming, and suddenly this calf did a back somersault, and jumped over. That was very interesting because we haven't seen this kind of behavior before either, and it's not been recorded either. And yeah, so the finless porpoise is a very interesting creature, although very elusive. And its status at the moment is also vulnerable. So far, all the animals that I've described are actually listed as threatened in the IUCN Red List. So let us go on to our bottlenose dolphin. So I haven't seen the bottlenose dolphin myself, but my my student has, and we basically discovered the animal actually through photographic records from fisheries department. And it's also a very interesting story of our first sighting of this animal. Actually, it happened in Teluk Bahang, and what happened was tour operators were seeing this animal already breached, like it had beached on the sand, and it was struggling actually because the water was receding. So in their attempts, they actually tried to rescue this animal by carrying it and putting it back in the water. And so it was disorientated. I think it tried to swim. And if you see this picture here, this is actually a fish farm, which is located very close to the beach where it was found. So it was swimming around in the disorientated way around the fish farm. And the fish farm is notorious for having really ferocious dogs. So these dogs started barking. That's the story, because I wasn't there, my student was there. They started barking, ferociously at this poor animal who's trying to swim away anyway. And they jumped in the water and started chasing it. So, it was not doing very well, but I think it managed to escape. And it was alive. There was no more reports of strandings of bottlenose dolphin at that time. So yeah, and the dolphin now, its status has been uplifted to near threatened. Before it was, I think, data deficient, if I'm not mistaken. But not much work has been done on this. Not much research has been done on this animal worldwide either. Okay. I'd like to talk to you about a marine mammal app, which we have been developing in Penang. Basically, this app I've already actually introduced to a number of people. And it's basically, we have developed it in both Android as well as Apple. And the purpose of this app actually is to ask the people of Penang or the public of Penang to record strandings or sightings of marine mammals when they see them. So basically, it's available free. All you have to do is go into the Play Store or even the Apple Store, and then you can just see Marine Mammal app and just click on it, download. And if you do see an animal, you can just record it for us. And it's pretty simple how to use the app. It's very user-friendly. The first version of the app was not so great, but I think our final version is a bit better. And we, of course, welcome any more comments on how to use the app, and what are the problems. So yeah, if you guys can download the Marine Mammal app, it will be great. It will help us to monitor these animals and to see their distributions, where their populations are, where are the strandings happening. So this will help in future conservation of marine mammals in Penang. Okay, now this is an interesting part. How do you spot a dolphin? Actually, dolphin watching is, when we do dolphin watching, it's different from how tourists do it. It's actually pretty unglamorous. We usually see a little dot on the sea, and then we look again, and then we use our binoculars, and we don't see the whole animal. We usually just see the fins. So if you do spot an animal, it really appears as a small speck in the ocean. And then after that, you will see the animal emerge out of the water and go back in. And it should there should be a time lapse before you see it again, come out of the water and go back in. I'd like to share with you a video. Now, maybe if Evelyn can help with that, it's the heavier video. Have you got the videos, Evelyn?
Dr. Leela will assist you with it. Just give us a moment. Thank you.
Okay. I hope it's you know which one it is.
We have 2 videos on the drive.
I see. I think that's not the one then. I'll try and share mine. Okay. So I stop share, is it, of this?
Yes, please.
Okay, and then I'll try to share. If we can't do it, then we can just move on. Okay, so stop share for now. Okay, I'll try to open the video. Or shall we do this at the end in case there are delays?
Yeah, that'll be great. Let's do that.
Okay, we'll do this at the end. It's just that when that particular time frame comes along. So, okay. So we'll just go back to my slides for a short while, and then we'll try and load the videos at the end. Okay, so basically I was going to show you a video on how our students actually look for animals, and it's quite taxing and it's a long thing. It's not so easy as people think it is. And, you know, standing and balancing on a boat and taking photos as well is something that you learn. Okay, let us move on to the next one. Okay, so I'd like to talk to you about a bit about what's happening in terms of what's affecting their mortality. I mean, as they are all listed in the threatened group, the IUCN red list, and they are listed as threatened basically. The main important threat and most like, you know, devastating to them is incidental entanglement in fishing gear. And this is like specific gear like gill nets or drift nets, which are hung on the sea. They're like sort of like laundry, you know, like imagine laundry being hung. It's the same way. It's like nets which are, you know, carried by weights, and it's like over can be very long, especially, and they're hung vertical. So so anything that goes through them will get stuck in them, and plus they are left there for long hours. So that's why I think these animals also get stuck in the nets as well. Another issue that's happening in Penang, of course, is the coastal development, which is like, you know, it's everywhere. You know, it's like north and east of Penang, you know, are not recognizable as natural habitat anymore. So that affects its natural habitat because these species actually, there's certain things that make them come to a certain area. It's not like they just come. You know, there's certain conditions that they need for their survival. So yeah, basically we would go on then to threats such as boat and propeller strikes, because we have like tourist boats coming in and fishing boats coming in. Sometimes, you know, when the animal surfaces, the boat also will hit the animal. And we're having some issues with pollution as well. Okay. Is everything okay with the slides?
Yes, Dr. Leela, we can see it.
Okay, great. Because I saw another thing pop up suddenly. Okay, and also there is pollution. Now in pollution, we have an issue with low oxygen levels, which have been reported in the last 2-3 years. Especially on, you know, the fish dying out, because they're dying out because there's no oxygen in the water, basically. That kind of thing going on. So we're looking into that and to see whether there is a relationship between, you know, the low oxygen levels, low levels of prey, and declining dolphin populations in Penang. Okay, so what have I done and our group have done over the years? We started off after this to have workshops with local communities and NGOs as well. And we invited speakers also from different countries who actually to share their experience on how they got in touch with the local communities. And we did that for a while. We also had sessions with the fishermen, and fishermen also brought up their own issues. As you can see here, this fisherman is not too happy. He expressed his issues as because he felt that the artisanal fishermen were given less privilege, and he felt like undermined, you know, and he felt there were issues of politics, and even there was some talk about even some corruption going on in you know, between various bodies. So the fishermen brought up their issues, which is good, but sometimes it goes out of topic. We're talking about dolphins, and then they will talk about their problems and their issues, but we can't ignore them, because people will not help with conservation if you don't look at their problems first also. So you have to see where they are coming from before they can help with dolphin conservation and stuff like that. So we got to know the ground level problems. Okay, so we also did a little bit of public awareness, but it was mostly in Batu-Ferringhi and Teluk Bahang, not the whole of Penang. And we invited like tour operators to actually learn how to approach and, you know, manage, if they do see a dolphin, what should they do so that they would not disturb these animals. So basically, you know, we taught them that. We actually went out on a boat trip. We did not see any dolphins that day, but we used a plastic dolphin to show the distance, that the closest distance that a boat should be to a dolphin, and, you know, how fast we should run, you know, like don't go too fast, you know, there were at least not more than, you know, 15 knots an hour, but of course they wouldn't listen to that, but anyway, we tried. And also things like, you know, what happens when you see a pod of dolphins? So, you know, how to approach them, to just like maneuver the boat so that you're just next to the animal, you know, alongside the animal, rather than going through the pod or following it from behind or following it from the front. You should just go alongside the animal. So we had all this kind of education going on a few years back. So this has helped me to actually have this particular book come out. It's a very simple book in both in Bahasa and English. And it's to help local communities, the public as well, to learn, and of course, you know, let them know about these animals, about dolphins, and also let them know what they can do and the things on best practice regarding dolphin watching, and, you know, especially boat strikes, things like that. Okay, so what do I recommend to the people of Penang and to our research and to our conservation, the future conservation? I think we should still have more education awareness. I can't do it all. I would like to invite NGOs to help with, you know, continuing this kind of education, you know, to learn more about our flagship species, involve community more, because sometimes even though we try to involve them, like when I did, they would feel that they have no say in conservation. That's a major problem. They don't feel empowered. They don't feel they have rights even to involve themselves in conservation, and they feel it's someone else's job to do. So we have to change mindsets. We have to try at least to change mindsets. And with this information I'm collecting so far, we hope to have a marine mammal management plan, but it has to be with community in mind, and of course it has to be adaptive as well. And I feel there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we need to just continue more and more research on these animals. So I leave everyone with a little quote. I saw this quote a very long time ago when I was listening to a Ph.D. student. I think it was in 2002. And I believe that this quote has, you know, resonance, you know, and it's true. So it's, in the end, we will conserve only what we love, and we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. So basically, I think that, you know, we can't save the whole world, but we can save the things that we love, and we have to understand them, and we have to learn, you know, we have to learn about them. We have to be educated about them, basically. So I'd just like to thank USM for giving me all the support to continue my work, my funders, International Whaling Commission, Ocean Park, Conservation Foundation, Hong Kong, and of course our communities, our fishermen, our tour operators, the staff support from CMAX, and many other bodies. So this is the end of my slide. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Leela, for such an informative presentation. I think a lot of us are finding
Oh,
it
thank you.
it's so amazing to really find out that we have such a high biodiversity of dolphin species and population in Penang. And it is extremely inspiring that you've got the local community involved and be part of the conservation program, which is definitely not an easy task. It is particularly commendable that conservation practices needs to be localized, inclusive, and participative. And we have about 60 people watching us this morning, and they are teeming with questions on the comment section. So maybe I can
Oh no.
yes. But just to start off, maybe I can take one question first. There's okay, maybe I can pull two questions together. One is someone asked what are the causes of changes from the year 2013 to 2019, referring to one of the graph that you have. And also another one that says what are the tolerance of these marine mammals towards pollution?
Okay, could you repeat the first question again? Sorry.
No worries. The first one is what causes the changes from 2013 to 2019? And I think it's from one of your graphs. Yeah, that was the first question.
Okay, what causes the changes? It could be a decline of prey, decline of fish, their nutrition. So they would, if they find that they're not getting enough of their food, they would move off to other areas to survive, basically. And it correlates also closely with the low oxygen levels, which were found 2 years ago in the air in Penang. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Leela. Have CIMAX and USM has always been in the scene of marine conservation in Penang. So when there are pollutions that are happening in Penang, what are the challenges to find the point of source and to rectify the matter?
Okay, I'm not directly involved with the pollution study in CIMAX. From what I see, that there are various sources, like it could be caused by eutrophication, which causes low oxygen levels. Basically, runoff. Yeah, actually, that's the problem. You mentioned you had asked me a couple of questions. Earlier yesterday, and one of the issues here we always face with marine conservation is the issues of the land actually affect the issues in, it goes down back to the marine environment. So it has to be something, it could be runoff from an agriculture, it could be a quarry, it could be a mining site in Penang somewhere that's causing all these problems. So, but the jurisdiction for managing those things are run by a different guy, and the jurisdiction for marine is run by different people. So that's why there's no flow or consensus on conservation generally. It's like it's all in separate blocks. Yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
So follow up with that question, I think yesterday I was asking you, since you have quite a wide range of experience where you were attached with JCU and you have in the JEF program. So what are among the lessons learned and best practices that you wish to bring back to Malaysia?
I think it's the system of hierarchy is very prevalent in Malaysia. The grassroots people are fighting a different cause. The top management or the top down management is not in linkage with the bottom, and also, like, for instance, everything we write on paper, I could write 10 million reports, and it will be put nicely in a bookshelf somewhere in fisheries department or taman, like Department of Marine Park. But to get it actually to be functioning at the ground level is a totally new thing altogether. It's like, it's like you're looking at two different things altogether, and when you go down to the ground, you see that things have their problems there, and it's also an unawareness of those problems down there. We have this fancy management plan, but actually down there's a whole different story altogether, and we have to go down. I think we should go down to the ground more often and actually find out those problems there before we even think about developing a huge report or a management plan. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Leela. And I'm just curious, when you say go down to the ground, so who specifically that's supposed to, be more in the field?
I think it's more I would say, yes, I do it, but I can't become a manager. I have no jurisdiction, no right to become a manager because I can only inform the management of something. So I feel it should be our managers, it's not only the NGOs, I think it's more the government managers should go down to the ground and mix with the local communities. There is a divide, definitely. Between it feels the people at the ground level are very frightened of these people. They're not frightened of the NGOs, they're not frightened of me because I don't have any power anyway, but they're frightened of the people in charge of management and conservation to actually do them. Yes.
I think there's one question from the audience asking about what is
okay, great.
what is the local fishermen's reaction towards the dolphins?
Okay, actually, they are very keen to. When I went down to meet them, they're always very helpful. They're very hospitable to me. But lately, they feel that their problems are not being looked at. Sometimes I go in with a dolphin agenda, but then they start thinking about their issues. Like for instance, in Penang, there are various issues at the moment, like the land reclamation of the 3 islands. Their minds are on this kind of thing at the moment. They're looking at their survival, and they know the fish are declining. They know it. They come back to me and tell me, what can we do to save our fish? Because we can't get enough fish. Or even now during MCO, we get fish, but we have no one to sell it to, because nobody wants them, so they even catch less catch now than before. So their problems have to be also, we don't solve their problems, but we have to empathize with their problems before we can bring in, our dolphin conservation. Dolphin conservation does not rank highly in their list of needs at the moment, or in the near future even. They're more interested in their survival at the moment and livelihoods. Yeah.
Another question I would like to take from the crowd is that someone's curious about what are the impacts of kelong fishing on the Penang coast to the marine life. Kelong as in the offshore platform built predominantly with...
Yes. Kelong fishing, kelong fishing has trapped dolphins before. Not dolphins, sorry, dugongs before. It's quite popular. I mean, it's happened a few times with dugong, but I haven't heard about dolphins being trapped inside a kelong yet. But yeah, it's possible, but I don't know. I think they're quite smart enough to escape from there too, So yeah, how does it affect? I'm sorry, your question again. How does it affect what exactly?
The question goes like, how? Okay, I'm quoting per se. I'm curious to understand better what are the impacts, if any, of kelong fishing on the Penang coast and the marine mammal life.
Okay. If you set up a structure, generally it does disturb the area, but not as bad as something like a development, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's still most kelongs are made, of natural substances, and if you compare to something like a clearing of the mangrove area for development, it's much less an impact. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Leela. And just a question from me, I think I addressed most of the questions from the group and the crowd, is that when you mentioned that most of the species, if not all of it that is in your slides, are endangered to various extent in the red list. Do you think this is well captured in our, say, national biological diversity policy, or any conservation documents that people can go to and find out?
Well, they do have the National Stranding Program. I mean, they like I said, they have all the nice fancy reports. There is also the Dugong Management Plan, which is currently needing some revision. They are very well aware of these animals being in the threatened category of the IUCN Red List. There's no doubt about that. But it's all on paper, as I said before. It's not on. I mean, practice-wise, we don't really do that much conservation, honestly. Yeah.
Do you think it's a challenge because there's a lack of finance support?
I don't think we're as bad as places like, we do have funding, but I think it's also coordination of management efforts. We have some expertise. I think it's more we should get everyone together and sit down and be on the same page. Based on my experience in East Malaysia, I find that happens more there than here. Here I'm sorry to say this is my personal view, that it's quite uncoordinated. There are agendas from each agency, and even maybe I also have an agenda, but anyway, there are agendas from each agency and it just doesn't fit together. They are not on the same page. Whereas in East Malaysia, I find that they've managed to stop them. Like, this was many years ago, but they were in a consensus that they did not want a dolphinarium. They were planning to have a dolphinarium right in Manukau Island. And, there was a lot of pressure from actually, I don't know where these developers came from. They're probably from West Malaysia anyway. They wanted to develop this huge facility, which in a marine park. And even though the economic, I think the economic revenue from such a project would be great, but actually all the departments were in consensus. They even invited me and Dr. Saifullah to check, to get the expert advice on this, and they came to a consensus that they did not want this dolphinarium. So it's like everyone is on the same page, whereas it's not the case over here.
Well, that's something very encouraging to hear over in Sabah, that such conservation effort that comes from the top level that is so
yes, that's the thing. The top level is very in tune with, they know their main asset and their resource is the marine resources for tourism. Of course, they have a economic, they have an economic thing to it. But the thing is, they know how to look after the place better. I feel anyway. Okay. I mean, even now in the MCO, they are planning to have more marine parks, as I know of it, because I've started a project over in Sabah, and we're looking into all of that. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. We'd love to hear more about marine parks, because obviously on this side of Malaysia, we don't really have it, especially in the Straits of Malacca. So
yes, they were thinking of, I think, Song Song, if not mistaken, Jabatan Taman Laut wants to have a marine park in Song Song, if not mistaken. And we have already done the initial surveys and stuff like that. Yeah. So I don't know. That's the future of that.
Perhaps just to pick on your brain a little bit on marine parks. So we know that marine parks are like a no-take zone for 2 nautical miles from the coastal area. So when we have existing like population of fishermen that depends on fish stocks, who have been like coastal fishermen who have been fishing sustainably for generations, how do we reconcile with those competing users?
That is a famous issue. I think it's an issue that's happening in most of the marine parks. I mean, personally, I've been to Pulau Sibu in Johor, and that's the first, you see, they come with their problems. I'm coming along with dolphin conservation. I want to teach them about dolphins, and of course, Dugong. I go down there more for Dugong, sorry. But anyway, and then they'll come along, hey, they don't allow us to even fish beyond, from this 0 to 2 nautical miles. Now it's 3 actually in Pulau Sibu. So for the first 3 nautical miles, they can't fish and they disappear. They go further than that. So basically, they complain to me about that. They say, "What can we do? This is our land. This is our birthright to take food from here." And then when I go to marine parks, they say, marine parks, we don't really enforce it. I don't know whether they're listening right now, but anyway, we don't really enforce it. We let them have their little bit of food, and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, really, I don't know whether, like that 3 nautical mile actually is enforced that much, because I do see the trawler boats coming in, and then the artisanal fishermen get mad, and then they say, get out, get out, get out, that kind of thing. So that's why I said, in the ground is a total different story altogether, and we should take it from ground up, actually. that would be better. Yeah.
I totally agree with you because yes, the narrative on the ground is very eye-opening, and as you said,
Yes,
there's
yes.
always competing users and even trawlers who are not supposed to enter the shallow areas are coming and destroying the seabed. So that's one
Yeah.
issue. I did work a little bit on blast fishing in Sabah back in the heydays, and yeah, I would agree that it's still an ongoing issue and it transcends beyond just marine conservation, but it's also a social problem as well.
Yeah.
Issue of food security and
Yeah.
poverty alleviation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
So,
So
sorry.
yeah, so in my observations and in my dealings with community and conservation, I find that we should have, that's my take on things. I think we should have programs, yes, programs for conservation of the particular species that we want to conserve, like dugong, dolphin, turtle, whatever it is that we want to conserve. But alongside that, we should have something like a community development project that seems to help them, and then at the same time they see that they're getting the benefits of they see that this environmental project is bringing along something that is like community development, poverty alleviation, and alternative livelihoods. I think the program should come together and there should be one big program from that, like two components of a bigger program. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That sounds like a good way forward that we all can work together across board, across agencies, yeah? So maybe the last question that we can take for today, this morning, is yesterday someone saw some dead dolphins by the beach, and
I see.
what are they supposed to do when they come across, even if it's dead or it's stranded, what are they supposed to do?
Okay, you can try using my app. I'm happy to meet up with anyone. We're trying to spread the word for the app, actually. We have been also, I think, fishermen are a bit unhappy these days in Penang, so when I go to them, oh, we have other problems, why this app thing? But anyway, we try to share it with everyone in Penang, the public. So please try, just go on the Play Store and then you'll find it. Download the one which is heavier, because we were having trials. So I think it's the 13 MB app. And it's pretty easy to use. So that's one thing they can do. And also they can report to Fisheries Department. And I'm working closely with Fisheries Department using the app as well. So fisheries can I think because they need some time to get to the animal. So maybe that's why they're all a bit agitated at the smell of the animal and blah, 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 and all that.
Were you aware, sorry, Dr. Leela, what was the species of the dolphins that were found recently?
I think the one that I saw was on a Facebook page was it Expat in Penang or something? I saw one that looked like a finless to me. There's a problem with the high mortality of the finless porpoise for a reason that we have to find out, like by doing necropsies and stuff like that. Yes. Yeah, it's just the finless dolphin porpoise more. There's also humpback recently as well. So, we don't know. Maybe it's just that there's more chance of them to be caught in a fishing net, because I saw ropes around one of them. So it could be that it was entangled in a fishing net and it drowned, and then the fisherman just cut it and then he left it. And they know actually that these are endangered species, the fishermen and all that. Yeah.
CIMEX is involved in performing any necropsy studies?
Yes, I have done some in the past, and we will continue working with Fisheries Department to do more necropsies and to set up a program as well in the future. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Leela. We've learned so much from this 1 hour sitting with you. And just as a final, you have any departing statements and final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today?
I think it's good that people have an interest in dolphins. I mean, they're always they're amazing to look at. Dugongs as well. They're flagship species, but don't forget the other species as well, because they all make up. They are all important in their own right, and we usually use these animals as kind of like an umbrella for the conservation of the other less pretty species. So yeah, of course, continue, with this journey with me to discover these animals more and to learn more about the behaviors, because I'm really interested in their behaviors, like, new behaviors. The resting behavior was very exciting for me. I don't know about others, but because it's just, I don't think others have seen it. So it was like something amazing. And to see finless porpoise behavior, which is a very elusive species. So yeah, continue with me. I'll update you on my research, and I hope that you enjoyed this talk. And so next time when you see an animal, you might have an idea of what species it is. Thank you.
Awesome, Dr. Leela. And just before we go, would you like to attempt to play the video for us?
I think we play the videos that managed to get to you. It's just a very, very short video of Irrawaddy and Humpback. That's about it. And
Okay.
Yeah, great.
All right. Let me share it for my statistics. Dr. Leela, what are we looking at now?
We're looking at the Humpback dolphins. These were taken by a local community in Penang. So they're found all around Penang, which is probably the topic of my next project. I'm planning to work on humpbacks more because they require more money. I have to go around the whole of Penang for them. So so we'll see how they go with this.
I'm just curious, how many are in this pod of dolphins?
How many? Oh, I think it will be at least, if you look behind there, at least about 8 or 9 or more, maybe up to 10. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think you have another video.
Yeah, that's my students' video. Excuse me if it's not too professional, but it's just us taking photos. And you'll see the pod appearing suddenly. Like, there you go. Yep. So, yeah, these are Irrawaddy dolphins. So, yeah. And this area is in Sungai Pinang area.
Oh, Sungai Pinang.
Yeah.
So you did mention that they can live along rivers as well, which is fresh water.
Yes, that's right.
So they're adaptable to both environment.
Well, I don't know about this population, but once the populations have acclimatized with a river, they would stay in the river. These ones are coastal populations, so there's 2 types. And I'm not sure whether a coastal population can suddenly run into a river and stay there, but yeah, usually I think they wouldn't do that because they're used to one kind of habitat already. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Leela. And I think that's all the time that we have today. And I hope that the audiences have enjoyed and take home a lot of messages. Please remember to go to your Play Store and download the Marine Mammal app and give it a try. And Dr. Leela, if they want to know more information, is there any social media, Twitter handle or Facebook that they can follow?
Yes, actually, I do have a page which is called the Dolphin and Otter Watch Penang. You can go to that Facebook page, or they can email me directly. I think it's quite easy to find me in USM. You can just look for my email if you have specific questions, or if you want to volunteer, or if you want to get involved with some community conservation. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. And I think that's it for us today. JEDI webinar. We are so honored to have you with us. And for the audience, thank you for joining us in this Saturday morning. Of course, you will be doing a lot of other things, but you choose to be with us, and we're really grateful. And please follow and like our page so that you can be updated with more webinar that is there is to come. And maybe we can have Dr. Leela back again when she has a new project. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.